You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing? How we doing? I got a question for you. Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin's the combo guard. That's the report that Stephanie White's putting out. Going to move Caitlin Clark off the ball. And we'll get into it and try to figure out what really is going on. Stephanie White came out, major announcement, said Caitlin Clark is going to play off the ball. That's right, folks, off the ball. And, I really have a question that I want to just ask, and I want to ask it openly. How do you take the best point guard in the WNBA and transition them to off the ball? I repeat, how do you take the best point guard in the WNBA and move them off the ball? And I want to really ask that question, and here's why. Indiana Fever fans have a very high basketball IQ, and they've watched Caitlin, they fall in love with Caitlin, and now again, we're trying to change Caitlin. And, it really is going to come down to I could see this coming, and everyone may disagree with me, but we're gonna have to figure out who's gonna win a championship. Is it gonna be Stephanie White's gonna win the championship, or is it gonna be Caitlin Clark's gonna win the championship? Because it looks like both are chasing the glory, but it looks like Stephanie White wants a major hand in chasing that glory. Now, the other thing, that really I'm a huge Caitlin Clark fan, and everyone that's listened, you've known it. We want to thank you for tuning in to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast, where you always tell you it's our opinion, but if it turns to truth, then we've given you the facts long before it happened, right? So you got two big major figures, two big presence people here. And the question is, Caitlin off the ball. How is that going to work when you want her to play off the ball? Now, the reason why this is so challenging for me is because Caitlin had an awesome season. I mean, Caitlin Clark's season was unbelievable. Can't be touched, can't be moved, would duplicate it. But as to moving her off the ball, what's that going to look like and how they're going to execute that out? And here's where it gets puzzling to me. And you'll always hear me say this. I don't know how you want to change greatness. You want to change greatness. That's kind of hard to do, and you want to make changes with players when they get to the WNBA, and it's like, okay, now we're going to develop you into becoming a better player. I don't necessarily agree with that, and again, this is my opinion. But to the Indiana Fever fans, I'm not alone. I don't think you need to change Caitlin. I really don't see that as a major factor. Caitlin is the best point guard in the league that you're moving off the ball. And that one there is going to get a little interesting. Why? Because Stephanie White doesn't want to run a point one, rather run it at a point three, like Alyssa Thomas, run a point four. And then we'll come off and get interchanges and exchanges and come off the ball. I mean, you got down screen, cross screens, stutter screens. There's a lot of things that you're going to be able to do. However, Caitlin's got to adjust and get good at that in a hurry, right? And that one there puts you in a different class. And when you start getting into a different class, when a player has been an all star, okay? And again, I just want to ask the question, how do you take the best point guard in the WNBA off the ball? Now, Stephanie White came out the other day and talked about the big three. Well, the big three is down to the big one, and the big one is Caitlin. And I'm telling you, folks, when you get to changing the game, okay, when you get to changing a player's game, you're tinkering with something. And I think this just goes back and to Lynn Dunn. And when Lynn Dunn came in, they had plans for Caitlin to be a combo guard. They never intended Caitlin to be the one. They didn't put anything in for her. It was a struggle at the beginning of the season. They made adjustments, figured out, okay. Now, but when you look at what's going forward, and you've got the best point guard, the number one, the global icon, Caitlin Clark. I mean, don't get me wrong, as a point guard, everybody in America is going to come to pay to see Caitlin play the point guard spot. Everybody in America is not going to come to see Caitlin play the combo guard spot. And that's something that the Indiana Fever fans have a tremendous IQ. All right. I mean, you're talking all the way back to Naismith, the birth of basketball, right? And now you're making the change to, is it for the betterment of winning a championship? Is it a betterment for the team? Because folks, I'll tell you, Caitlin can get lost in the shuffle in this, and I get back to Bird and Magic, and this goes way back for the listeners there who follow basketball for many years. They never changed Magic Johnson when he came into the WNBA, excuse me, to the NBA, and they never changed Larry Bird. Red Auerbach never changed Larry Bird either. He's got the players to surround him, and I think Caitlin has a great supporting cast. Now they threw me for a loop because I thought that supporting cast was based off of Caitlin coming in there and now running the point guard spot, moving her to the combo. That's going to be a little different. And I can tell you this, folks, when you get two great minds, and this is what happens with basketball savants, you get great minds. Okay. And Stephanie White, you got a basketball coach with a great mind. You got Caitlin Clark's a player with a great mind. Great minds are on borderline when you play this game and you play it so long and you play it for years, you've been around it. It's borderline schizophrenic, right? You stay up all night trying to figure out what am I doing? How do I do it? Stephanie White's not getting any sleep, right? Because she's trying to figure out all these combinations I got to run. Now, what did I talk about? When you run that much, here's what can happen with Caitlin Clark. You can get lost in the shuffle, right? And you can get lost in the shuffle. And that's where a discord can begin because Stephanie White is a very, 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 very intelligent basketball coach. Intelligent basketball coach. Caitlin Clark is a very, 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 very intelligent basketball player. In fact, Caitlin can coach the team by herself. She knows all the sets. If you look at the both of them, here's the deal that I both see. First of all, Stephanie White's a broadcaster. So if the Indiana Fever are going to do anything, the Indiana Fever might as well go ahead and get Stephanie White her own podcast. Call it the Stephanie White Podcast. Let her get on there because we don't need to search to find Stephanie White. And Stephanie White's been a broadcaster, so she gets the drill pretty good. And she's always going to set us up. So, every time I hear her, but I know this has been in the Indiana Fever's mind for a long time. I think when they hired Stephanie White, they talked about it even more. What am I saying? What's Money Mike saying? You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicate Radio Podcast. We're powered up by Fanatics. We believe Fanatics. We've got extra affiliate gear there for you folks. We're partnering up with the one vertical solution that can get you where you need to go, and that's Fanatics. But here's the deal with Stephanie White. I mean, you got Caitlin and Stephanie, two great minds. Are going to have to figure this thing out. Where does the chip in? I don't know. But Money Mike's going to tell it to you flat out. I'm a huge Caitlin Clark fan. And what I'll tell you, I don't really think you need to mess with greatness. And when you mess with greatness, things get a little dangerous. I mean, you never mess with Magic. You never touch Larry Bird. They brought their game. Their game stood on its own. When you start touching Caitlin, you might as well start touching Michael Jackson because that's what you got. You got perfection that you're going to change, and I don't think that's a good idea, but we got to wait till the end. Nobody knows till the show starts. That's right. But there was another one that was perfected that you really didn't touch. His name, was Tiger, right? And when Tiger came in, I mean, he torched everybody, but he came in as young, and nobody could really understand it. He could outdrive all the bunkers. I mean, he was kind of like the Caitlin Clark-esque because he had the Tiger effect, right? And you got an effect. And here's where I'm going with this, folks. Caitlin Clark is an all-star. That's an all-star, okay? And when you get to dealing with an all-star, America wants to see Caitlin Clark play with the ball in her hands. And that's what the fans and season ticket holders and the sellouts are all about. And making her a combo guard, that's a different position. You're throwing in a different class of horses. What I mean, you got Rickea Jackson, okay? You got Rennie Howard up there. That's a combo guard. You got Jewel Lloyd. That's getting lost in the shuffle. Caitlin's the best point guard in the league, and that's where it should stay. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We want to thank you for tuning in. All things are possible To those who believe, we'll see you soon.